There are no strings on me.
Oh, didn't see you there. So, just got through rewatching Age of again with the glasses. Is that like a thing? Is that gonna be a thing? So, I just got through rewatching Age of Ultron. Yeah, it's probably a really looks like a glare. It's a bad glare, but just got done rewatching that film, and I figured with Civil War coming up, probably a good time to talk about those things. Let's talk about where the series is going. Let's talk about just in general some theories, some fan theories, maybe some outlandish ones, maybe some cool ones. Let's just kind of go off on a tangent, see where the MCU as a whole is going, and discuss some character development. So that being said, that's really good. So I kind of wanted to highlight the fact that going back, I completely thought that Age of Ultron was kind of going to be completely different than the way that it was. I kind of imagined them not going with such a safe tone. And I say safe. I mean, the movie's great. Like, don't even misunderstand that. I think it was still good. I just think that maybe there was a couple of little safety things. Like for a sequel, it kind of hit on some beats that are pretty normal. But I think that overall, I kind of just wanted a little bit more from Ultron, and not like in the character. James Spader did a great job, and I think the characterization was really good. I just kind of felt like we should have spent more time developing him. Like I kind of felt like in Iron Man 3, like the whole time that his armor was messed up, or maybe when he came out with the prototype for, I mean, essentially was the Extremis armor. Like I kind of felt like we should have gotten with that we should have gotten a gist of his, the second AI, or maybe that the Iron Legion, when he did the house party protocol, that instead of it being that, it would have basically been the Iron Legion. They would have had their own AI, and maybe that AI would have been Ultron, and that way when he would have came out in the next movie, like, oh, that way, kind of the whole Thor thing, like Loki was just a really good characterization. I felt like Loki was the only one that really had a full arc in the Avengers, other than maybe Tony and kind of sort of Banner, but really Loki's movie was Avengers. So I kind of felt like Age of Ultron should have just kind of been that. And the same thing with the Vision. Like Vision was good, had complete in that film, but I think I just kind of wanted Ultron to have. I guess Hydra should have had more of a presence. I felt like the very beginning of the film, you kind of get this. Go ahead and just relax a little bit. But I kind of feel like you get in the very beginning of the movie where Hydra comes in. Like I didn't really want the Avengers to be fully formed. Like when the movie starts, I mean, sure you want your big action sequence, but the end of the first movie, you get this whole, oh, if we need them, they'll come back. But then the very beginning of the second movie, they were already fully formed, and you didn't really get that from Winter Soldier. That there was a big gap in where they come in together, and then you had Thor. I kind of felt like because of the loose ends from Thor, and then Iron Man 3, and Winter Soldier, that the beginning of the movie should have shown them come back together. Like maybe Cap had Falcon and Black Widow and Hawkeye, and they were going, through, in Germany, hunting down that Hydra base. And then when they get there, those guys all have special gear that they weren't tracking, so it's kind of a surprise. And then all of a sudden, Tony shows up with the Iron Legion, which is run by an AI that's actually Ultron. So then that way, you get a feel for that. And maybe Tony wasn't actually there. Maybe like the same way in Iron Man 3, he was using the suit remotely. So it kind of shows that he still hasn't kind of got back into the game. And then Ultron's running that. Maybe War Machine's there. Kind of all tie in. That way you still have the threads from the previous movies. And then at the same time, you still get your big action sequence in the beginning. Maybe they do some fun stuff where, Thor's watching them because you didn't get a sense that he came back. So maybe he was waiting to make a really good entrance. And then all of a sudden, that entrance gets stolen by Banner because Tony's obviously been hanging out, Science Bros and all that. Like, I think that kind of would have been a good avenue. Like, it would have been a good approach. And not to say it was wasted, because I think the movie was still great. Was it better than the first movies? Yeah. I mean, in some ways, yeah. In other ways, no. I mean, the first movie was a gamble. It was a great payoff, especially for the whole culmination of Phase 1. But I kind of feel like Phase 2, like, it just kind of felt like that was the next step, but it didn't really feel like it needed to be the next step. Like, and Empire Strikes Back is kind of the best in the original Star Wars trilogy, and that's really because the whole series hinges on that moment, and really, it drives the whole plot of Return of the Jedi. But Return of the Jedi really wasn't as good of a film. I kind of feel like this is the opposite, and that Phase 3 will be better than Phase 2 because so much should have hinged on certain things. But I think ultimately, the true Avengers sequel was probably Winter Soldier. Like, it's probably just a better overall sequel and probably the best film of Phase 2 in terms of MCU. But I would still have to give Guardians of the Galaxy the best film of Phase 2. Like, that movie was just amazing. So, all that being said, I kind of felt like Ultron should have just had a little bit more character development in that sense. I kind of felt like his personality was, it was spot on in the sense that it was like mirroring Stark. I get that, but I felt like his motivation didn't make as much sense. That yeah, he wanted to evolve, but I kind of felt like he should have been proving the Avengers wrong. It should have been more of a battle of the minds than a physical fight. Like, yeah, there was physical fights and there should have been, but that should have been a distraction. He really should have just been trying to prove that for all their efforts to save people, it just kills more people. And that should have been his plan all along because he's planning on extinction anyway. But I kind of feel like he really shouldn't have been focused on the extinction more than proving to them that it was wrong, because he probably wanted to prove it to himself. And in that way, kind of like the cartoon did it. And yes, I watched the cartoon. It was good. Okay, so I kind of feel like in the cartoon they made a reference. They defeated him. He turned himself off because he realized that he was trying to destroy humans. And then, of course, you walk in here and try to be quiet. It's fine. It's fine. So distractions. So so I kind of feel like the way he deactivated himself because the logic was instilled in him that he was created by flawed humans, so therefore he was essentially flawed. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty deep, but I wouldn't see him in the film just turning off. It would kind of be like, really? That's how you... So I kind of feel like that should have been the moment, like when he gets introduced to that concept, that you, no matter how perfect you think you will become, you will never be perfect because you were created by a flawed being. That logic would just drive him nuts, and that's what goes, for the whole extinction, concept. And maybe you could have instilled in the meteor, irrelevant to me. I still think that whole scene between him and Vision was spot on, perfect. Like, it was just beautiful and almost doesn't even fit in the movie, but it does. But I mean, it's just a beautiful scene that highlights, the destruction of humanity and just the whole, I guess you could think of Ultron as being more of Old Testament type guy, or ununderstanding of, man creates, God, like, it's beautiful. Meanwhile, the Vision is more of a Christ-like figure, focused on life and just a more naive understanding of the world, but it doesn't matter because it's a positive outlook, at least hopefully. I think those are cool themes, and I think Whedon was doing a good job with that. I just think ultimately the movie was rushed, and maybe there was a lot of different things and aspects. I will probably at a much corporate, higher level that doesn't really pertain to the story or to the actors, but overall, I think it was a great movie. It's great to revisit it, and I think the setup going forward is going to be really good. I kind of feel like there's something bigger going on. I feel like from Phase 1 there was bigger stuff going on. I'm not really sure. I mean, I just kind of like fan theories. I mean, I shouldn't say fan theories. I think more of it's an analysis. So looking at certain things like that long-term like goals, and I don't really think that Loki is the villain that everybody thinks he is. I mean, spoilers. So I don't think. So Loki sitting on the throne of Asgard, he had every opportunity to give Thanos exactly what he was originally instructed to get, which was the Tesseract. So it's like you didn't get that one thing that that you were told to get, and you have it because it's powering the Bifrost now, and yet you gave the ether to the Collector. Why didn't you just give him both things and settle Loki's score? Loki's dead to the universe. They think he's dead. In Avengers 1, Tony Stark said that Loki wanted the planet to know that he had done what he had done. So why is it that he's content with sitting on the throne of Asgard as Odin? I don't think that Loki's goal. I think Loki thinks he created the Avengers. I think Loki thinks of himself as basically like the Nick Fury of the universe. And I think ultimately you'll find that out later on, that Loki's playing a long con, basically trying not to let Thanos into Asgard. I mean, if you really think about Thanos, everybody's like, oh, this guy's kind of a punk because he's, he lost the orb, he lost the Tesseract, like, he gave Loki the Mind Stone in order to get the Tesseract, and he failed at that. So basically, he's lost more Infinity Stones than he has. I don't think that's the case. I'm kind of thinking that it doesn't really matter if you have all the Infinity Stones, as long as you know where they are, because if you do, then you only need the one that can get you across big distances, which is the Tesseract. So I kind of feel like the Tesseract is the most important one, because all you have to do is know where the others are. So yeah, it makes sense that he would give the Mind Stone to get the Tesseract. So that once he has that, he can go and grab all the other ones as long as he knows where they are. So I think that ultimately the Tesseract will be the most important piece of that puzzle, and I think Loki knows it. So I think Loki's just kind of playing a long con, biding his time. And I have a couple of different theories on whether or not, Captain America Civil War, so I kind of feel like it's not going to be as safe. I think it's going to really mess with people. I think you're going to have a lot of people, obviously, Tony's being billed as being kind of the antagonistic character, but not really, and that's what drives the conflict. But I also think some people will probably be conflicted on which side they agree with. Maybe maybe you can agree with both sides, and maybe that makes it more dramatic. But all those things being said, like, in terms of the characters, like, you have a kind of a flip where in the comic book, Cap would kind of be on the opposite end in terms of, well, I should say it in the comic book, because in the comic book, I guess they took the same stance, but in the films, in the beginning, Cap was following orders, and it was all about, doing the right thing as a soldier. Meanwhile, Tony was the guy who didn't want to follow the rules, and now we've kind of flipped, but that's organic, because of some of the experiences they've seen. Tony's trying to make up for past mistakes, and Cap's, he's really just trying to live into the whole who he is. He needs war, and I think that Age of Ultron did a really good job of acknowledging that he basically needs to fight, and I think that's why he's unworthy of Thor's hammer. I think that Thor's hammer is, Thor kind of set himself up where he, once he was cast out, in order to be worthy of Mjolnir, he had to sacrifice his life, but he didn't give his life in a fight. He laid down arms to protect others. He gave his life so that no one else would be hurt. Whereas Cap, as many times as he sacrificed himself, was always in service of a goal. It was always to win the fight. And, when they showed the Scarlet Witch showing what their greatest fears were, Thor's greatest fear was, Asgard being overtaken and everyone he loves being dead. Tony's greatest fear was the aliens coming through the wormhole and all the Avengers dying because of him not being smart enough or being able to catch it. Meanwhile, when you see Steve, he sees a USO in the 40s. He sees a party. He sees celebration. He sees the end of the war. So for him, he can't stop fighting. And I think that's why he's not worthy, because he just hasn't allowed himself to realize that it's not about the fight. It's about life. It's about that aspect. I mean, it's just a thought. But I'm thinking that maybe that's the case, that in this movie, someone's going to go down, and they've led you to believe that it's probably Rhodey, but I'm convinced that Peggy's going to die, which is, in the very beginning, is what's going to set Steve off for his personal journey. Is that the last person that he has that ties to that old world is Bucky. So that's why he just can't let him go. But I think ultimately Bucky's not completely there. And I also think that Bucky may have in fact killed Tony Stark's parents. You know, maybe, I mean, they allude to Hydra having something to do with that. So Hydra's #1 assassin. So I kind of think that maybe it'd be really interesting if Bucky killed everybody's parents, so that way he kind of created the Avengers too. It makes him the second most interesting villain besides Loki, in a way. Um, I also just want to point out I love the fact that Spider-Man is now in the MCU because that also means that his parents can be S.H.I.E.L.D. agents like the comics. So we have a lot of good stuff. By the way, Spidey is spot on. Like, I buy that you're a 15-year-old. I love it. It's interesting. I think they're really going in the right direction, and I just, it's good. It's very good. The MCU has I mean, they have a wide open field right now with everything that they're doing. Doctor Strange is coming up, and you've got some real earth-shattering stuff in terms of reality bending. There's probably going to be another another Infinity Stone, so that way you don't necessarily have to be on Earth. Maybe that Infinity Stone exists on a separate plane or in another dimension, and that way he can pass through and get a hold of that, and that'll kind of be the MacGuffin of that film. For anybody that doesn't know what MacGuffin is, it's kind of just driving force object in a film. I probably didn't need to say that for anybody watching this or subscribe, but it had to be said. And on that note, my mouth's getting dry. So I think that's pretty much all I can discuss on that. I think I've run around and talked around in circles on the MCU as a whole. It started off in one place, ends in another. That's called ADHD. I have it. Maybe you have it too if you're watching this, or if you change the channel too. Definitely. So again, I just wanted to talk about some of those things, the people that I care about, the people that are watching my channel. This is really an excuse for me to sit in front of a camera, talk to myself, and drink. In case anybody was wondering, that's literally what this is for. So I don't care if you enjoy it.